3 rules of being a good criminal defense lawyer: always on time, neatly dressed, and occasionally sober. Hi, welcome to a fireside chat with Bruce Rivers. No, it's not a fireside chat. This is Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Welcome to another episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, your very own board-certified criminal defense lawyer, coming to you with a Shannon Sharpe update. And I've got my Irish cufflinks, so graciously gifted to me by Clodagh. This is also brought to you by AskALawyer.com. So let's say you have, you need a restraining order. Maybe you've got somebody named Nick that keeps coming around and you don't want him around, but you feel like you need to go get a restraining order. Well, what you do is you go to AskALawyer.com and you throw out your facts, and maybe they tell you what to do. You can say, no, Nick's a good guy. Don't, just deal with him. Everything's cool. Or maybe your grandma's in your basement and you got to get her out of there because she's dealing meth out of the basement and she's just really not your good neighborly person to have down there because of the rave party she throws in the basement, Well, you go to AskALawyer.com. How do I get my grandmother out of the basement? For $49, you get the solution. Bye, Grandma. See you later. Or maybe you just love your grandma and you want to protect her. So how do I put her stuff in a trust so that I get it all? No, not really. What you do is you go to AskALawyer.com. If you have a legal issue, go to AskALawyer.com for $49. You get a living, breathing, live lawyer, and you can either dispel the myth that you don't have a case or find the next steps to get to where you need to go. Or if you're doing your own research, they have an AI component trained in all the 50 states, so go to AskALawyer.com. They're a great sponsor for the channel, so give them some love. All right, so we did a video that we filmed, I think last week or something like that. And so we're gonna play that, and we've got some updates. So here's the video, and then I'm gonna give you the update on the other side of this. Shannon Sharpe is in the news because they had a court date. And guess what happened at the court date? The plaintiff and her lawyer didn't show up. Why not? I don't know. So a woman filed an anonymous lawsuit. That's what they do, Jane Doe. Suing Hall of Famer for $50 million, accusing him of assault and battery. There's a hearing called your initial appearance. And that's a hearing where you set up and get a pretrial order. Basically, it's the initial appearance to set the tone for the rest of the case. And you set it up you start basically with a trial date. Okay, we're going to try this case in about 8-9 months. So, and then you backfill all this other stuff because we have to have discovery deadlines, notice of depositions, that kind of thing. And then we have motion for summary judgment deadlines, dispositive motions, they call them. And I'll tell you this, fucking civil discovery and civil trials are just arduous. What I love about a criminal trial, here's your shit, I'll give you my shit, let's go to trial. I mean, that's really what it is. You can do depositions in Florida, but pretty much nowhere else. You don't get to do depositions in a criminal case. In a criminal case, you have interrogatories, you have depositions, requests for the production of documents, you have admissions, and you have and then you have other discovery tools. And if the other side doesn't comply, then you have motions to compel. Then you have a motion for summary judgment. That's where there's no genuine issue of material fact. And you say to the judge, the facts in this are pretty darn clear. You should either toss it out or you should give us the relief we're looking for. So the Shannon Sharpe team is basically calling this a shakedown, right? And so they're supposed to have their first hearing where they, set the trial order and pretrial order. And it was supposed to be last Wednesday at 10 o'clock. So the lawsuit's in Las Vegas. Now here's the thing. Her lawyer's not from Las Vegas. And one of the issues that you have, if you're an out-of-town lawyer, you got to fucking be there, And if you can't be there, try to get it on Zoom. So what happens is, I'm a lawyer, I want to take a case in Las Vegas, right? I'm not licensed in Las Vegas, but I have a guy down in Las Vegas. He'll vouch for my credentials, and he can pro hoc me in. It's called pro hoc vice. So pro hoc vice is where, you're not licensed in that state, but you get another lawyer who is to vouch for your credentials, and you fill out these forms with the court. You have a little hearing, and the court says you can appear, right? But guess what? you don't fucking show up, you're going to get a default against your client, and then you are subject to some real sanctions by the court and by the board. You know, you can lose your law license doing that. So one of the issues is, you know, you are subject to that jurisdiction. They tell you need to be there on Tuesday. Guess what? You better fucking damn well be there on Tuesday. And if you can't, you better get permission to appear by Zoom. Zoom has really saved a lot of time, effort, and expense for lawyers, because I can appear in one county and 300 miles away in another county in the same morning without having to really upset things. And if you're just going there for a 5-minute hearing, having a Zoom hearing is beneficial. Why the fuck wouldn't you show up? I mean, it's so ridiculous. And, you know, Trump's lawyers, or not Trump's lawyers. I have Trump derangement syndrome. I think I do. Sharpe's lawyers are saying this is just a shakedown. First of all, $50 million. I asked for $50 million in a case. That's not easy to do. I mean, asking for that much money can be perceived as greedy, as unreasonable, as a lot of things, okay? But I asked for a range between 30 and 50 million, and they gave my client 35. So it can be done, but you have to have the right case. You listen to those voicemails or those recordings that she made of Shannon Sharpe, where he's just calm. He's a little belittling, but not terribly so. He's not abusive over the phone. She's setting him up. You know, I mean, why, if you're in a loving, caring relationship, why would you record it? You know, I mean, you only do that is because you feel like you're getting fucked over, or you want to fuck somebody over. That's the only reason that you do that. And maybe she legitimately felt that way. I don't know. But if you don't show up to court, what is your problem? Sharpe's team asked Albertson to review the progress of the case at the later date and extend 45 days. The judge expressed surprise that Sharpe's team did not want to settle sooner, but granted their request. Well, guess what? When nobody shows up to court, the person that's there to speak is the person that's going to get hurt. A lawyer told Channel 8 News, generally it's better to have homegrown counsel, explain that there are intricacies in our system that a Nevada-based lawyer would best understand. If you have a matter pending in Nevada, it's best to have a Nevada counsel. Doesn't sound like he's auditioning for the job. I don't think that's always true, but if you have a good local counsel and you guys split up your duties a little bit so you're not doing it alone in Nevada or in a foreign jury, because you don't know, you're not going to know the judges. You know, a local lawyer would. You're not going to know, you know, how they like things. You know, when you can step on toes when you're in a different jurisdiction. So if you remember, we've got Shannon Sharpe on the phone choking her and you know, talking about choking, and the text messages are really bad. They just are. And clearly this was a situation where he was engaged. I mean, what is he, like 55, and he's got a 19-year-old girlfriend, something like that? I mean, that's a little much. That's just a little much. And so the next hearing is scheduled for September. And he offered her $10 million. And she turned it down. She should have taken it. I don't know why you would turn that money down. Anyway, so this is going to be a short video for us. There's not really much to talk about other than her lawyer didn't show up. Get a new lawyer. I mean, fuck. If your lawyer doesn't show up, fire him and get a new lawyer. It's just as simple as that. Your lawyer has to be there. 3 rules of being a good criminal defense lawyer: always on time, neatly dressed, and occasionally sober. Shannon Sharpe, who is in his mid-50s, so he's got more yesterdays than he has tomorrows, but he wants to date somebody that has more tomorrows than yesterdays, right? 19-year-old, not a good look. What's her name? Jane Doe. She doesn't want to give her name. She does. That's the name of the complaint, then, right? Tony Busby, as you know, the guy who dwells in the dregs of the legal system, it posted on his Instagram. On April 20th, 2025, the Busby law firm filed a complaint in Nevada making several allegations against Shannon Sharpe on behalf of our client. Both sides acknowledge a long-term, consensual, and tumultuous relationship. After protracted and respectful negotiations, in other words, we were screaming at each other, I'm pleased to announce that we have reached a mutually agreed upon resolution. All matters have now been addressed satisfactorily, and the matter is now closed, and the suit will be dismissed with prejudice. What does it with prejudice mean? Well, it means if you dismiss something with prejudice, it means you can never bring it up again. Without prejudice means I'm dismissing it for now, but if anything happens, I can bring it up later. Well, they can't bring it up. But how dumb was this, honestly? Now, let's say I'm Shannon Sharpe. I offer her $10 million to go away. They tell me no, because they want what? They wanted $50 million. Remember that's what they wanted? $50 million? My hope is that because they filed this, they put Shannon Sharpe through a bunch of shit, okay? He lost his ESPN gig. It's all over the media. Now the damage has been done. So what's it worth to them? I mean, it's if I'm Shannon Sharpe, it was worth more before they filed it because the value is in the secrecy. You know, keep my life the way it was. Don't tell anybody about this. And so they filed the lawsuit and they blew their wads, for lack of a better word, right? Pardon the pun. Shannon Sharpe refused to watch the alleged sex tape that his accuser claims shows their non-consensual encounter. So is this a I keep saying non-consensual, non-consensual thing. So this is a text from Gabriella, that's her name. But I cried when you left because I begged you to put on a condom and not put it in my ass. And you didn't listen. I don't care what our history is. No means no, Shannon. Well, no does mean no, unless you're dealing with an OnlyFans model. No, I'm just joking. You know, that's a thing. That is a thing that professional athletes did all the time. You know, I mean, my understanding is that's what happened with Kobe. And that's why that thing went south. Because they don't like to wear condoms. And then when they're about to have that moment of ecstasy, they put it in the ass. And that's where they rather than in the vagina, so they don't get them pregnant. When you have these texts, these are hers. I don't know how to process this. And his only response is, can I call you later? Oh, Jesus Christ. Why create so much trouble for yourself, Shannon? I mean, this cost him a lot of fucking money. And then she doesn't hide her name on you know, a lot of times what they do in these lawsuits to protect the innocent party, they charge it out as Jane Doe versus like Shannon Sharpe. That's what they did here. And they do that to keep them anonymous so that they're not, you know, attacked or stigmatized. However, I disagree with that whole fucking thing, honestly. If you're gonna attack somebody in a lawsuit, stand up and be prepared to defend it. You know, if you're gonna tell a story, it's got to stand up to cross-examination. You know, I've seen a lot of comments saying that I was wrong about the Diddy trial, and I was wrong. I was absolutely wrong. But I'm just sitting here prognosticating. I didn't see all of Cassie's testimony. I didn't hear all the evidence that came in. But clearly the jury did, and they didn't believe her. They didn't believe that this was non-consensual. And that's really what it kind of came down to. A similar thing can be said here. And listen, this is Gabriella Zaninga's post, and she's an OnlyFans model. So she's no stranger to whoring out her image. Today, I have decided to retire from OnlyFans. Thank you for the incredible support that you've shown me. Oh, show me your tits. Give me a break. Give me a break. There's incredible support over the past few years. This community has given me a life I could never have imagined. OnlyFans. What do you do on OnlyFans? Now, I've never frequented an OnlyFans page. But what tell me, I mean, is it just like sewing tips?
Okay, the first thing I'm going to talk about is lighting. Most sewing machines have a light on them.
Is it cooking lessons?
Hey, cookers. I've been having fun in the kitchen for over 50 years.
I mean, Gabriella, tell me how this community has been so supportive of you. Show me your tits. Let's see. I could never have imagined. I'll still be active on social media. Of course you will, because you're 19, 20 years old. Of course you will. You don't have a life outside of social media. If it's not online, it didn't happen. Remember? I'll still be active on social media and have several new projects in the works that don't involve my anus. Or no, it doesn't say that. I'm truly excited. Sorry. I'm truly excited for this next chapter. I love you all. Okay, now that I've got $10 million, I bet you they settled for $10 million. But now that I got $10 million, tax-free, mind you, then I don't have to whore my image out anymore. When you have, okay, so Robert or Eddie, whatever his name is, he just opined, is it tax-free? When you're claiming an injury, I'll give you an example. I have a client that was burned 40% of his body, and they used another 40% for skin grafts. We tried his case to a jury. The jury awarded him $35 million for that injury. That was something he lost. That is tax-free money. She's suing for what she claims to be damages caused by, emotional and tore up, some tissue in her anal cavity, whatever he did. That is all compensable, and it is tax-free. When you get money for an injury, it's not taxable. But let's say if I sue for lost income. Well, if you sue for lost income, lost wages, those would be wages coming in, right? So you're getting compensated for wages you didn't receive. So that would be, you get what I'm saying? So that is the deal. And I know I got a little blue in this episode, but you have to laugh a little bit because these are first world problems. I mean, you're going out with an ex-NFL star? What the fuck do you think is going to happen? He's going to take that big old hunk of meat and tear up whatever tissue you got. This ain't love, baby. I mean, this isn't romance. This is, like that whole Vince McMahon thing. I mean, it's depravity. And depravity at its heightened level, Why I'm all for man on top, get it over with, quick snuggle and fall asleep. That's where it should be. Love the one you're with. Don't torture the one you're with, please. Anyway, so that's our little reaction to Shannon Sharpe and the update and all that. So we'll see you next time here in Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Look what Nick just brought in. Yes, that's right. Coffee cups. We have all kinds of stuff on clrbrucerivers.com. So go to clrbrucerivers.com for all your merch needs. Go to askalawyer.com because they're a loyal to the channel. And they're the same people that brought you e-forms and e-sign. Make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon, and go to Facebook for the archives. And we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Okay, so here's the deal. In Colorado, a guy by the name of Gallion, this is his picture here. Holy shnikes, Batman. Bruce Rivers, welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, your very own board-certified criminal defense lawyer, here at your disposal, serving you and your voracious appetite for the news of the day, analysis, and maybe a comic relief or two. Today, we're reacting to some dickhead trying to kidnap a kid and see what happens when you do that. That's not really comedy, but when you can't make up what people, it's just you can't make this shit up. You just can't believe who people are in our society. And when they run the gamut from you got a billionaire to some urchin on the street, right? And everybody in between. And don't we mostly are, us snooty white wine drinkers fit somewhere in between there? Now, before we get to that, this episode is brought to you by askalawyer.com. AskAlawyer.com. If you have a legal question, go to AskAlawyer.com. They're a very effective way to get a legal opinion from a living, breathing mammal of a lawyer. It's a live lawyers for $49. You can find out if you have a claim, get the next steps, or, they can also tell you, look, don't go down this rabbit hole. You're risking this if you do that. Sometimes that's what we do. That's what we tell people. So go to AskAlawyer.com. You know that my grandma does. She's in the basement trying to find claims against our neighbors because she thinks that the neighbors are sending signals through her head. Grandma's really kind of losing it, guys. She plays with her toes. I'm constantly picking up her toenails. But she's a fan of AskAlawyer.com. And, it's a great outfit because they also brought you e-form and e-sign. In fact, we had somebody email us the other day that they used it and they really, really helped them. So go to askalawyer.com if you need help, because if it's good enough, Grandma, it's good enough for you, right? Okay, so here's the deal. In Colorado, a guy by the name of Gallion, this is his picture here. Holy shnikes, Batman. He looks like He's been on a, he looks like he's been out to sea for 6 months and hasn't eaten anything and has been exposed to the sun and maybe he's eaten a little bit of dirt. But evidently he tried to kidnap some child in Colorado off of a playground. He's a registered sex offender. He attempted to steal a kid from an elementary school. When we were kids, when I was a kid, which is like 3,000 years ago, we didn't really worry about this shit. There was a gal who was kidnapped in my 6th grade class. She was put in the trunk of a car. Now, this gal was extremely smart. She read Nancy Drew books and at the time she was just clever. And this was before, now you see a button inside your trunk so you can't really lock somebody in a trunk. But back when this happened, and this would be in the 70s, way back when, right? I'm old. Anyway, way back in the 70s, this is when this happened. She was able to unscrew the taillights of this car, and she was able to bust out of the taillight. So she snuck out, and this was in the middle of winter in Minnesota, where it's cold. I can't think of anything worse than having your kid abducted. There was a guy down in Texas who went up to the guy after he got sentenced and blew his head off for molesting his child. And guess what? He didn't get any jail time. He got justifiable homicide. We take our kids, and what do we do with our kids? We put them on the bus. We walk to the end of the driveway. The bus stop is right there, and then we say goodbye. We don't know what the hell happens to our kids once they're at school. And you put your kids in front of other people, whether it's a babysitter, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a doctor, whatever. How about the gymnastics physician who went to prison not too long ago? He had 170 fucking victims. Jesus Christ. Honestly, how does that happen? And some things are out of our control. You can't put your kid in a mosquito netting and shove them under the stairs and then let them out when they're 30. It just doesn't work like that. My office partner's child had cancer, and she died at 8 years old. So you just can't predict what's going to happen to your kids. But you certainly don't think if they're on a school playground that some street urchin named Galligan is going to kidnap your kid. The prosecutors in Colorado plan to drop the charges. What? Drop the charges against the registered sex offender accused of trying to kidnap a child from an elementary school because he was found incompetent to stand trial. Just because you are incompetent doesn't mean that they get off. So what do they do if they drop the charges? He's committed civilly. So that means he's not free to walk around. And this is in Arapahoe County. I've skied Arapahoe Basin. We call it A Basin. It's in Aurora and Littleton, Colorado. I'm not sure what the law is in Colorado, but in Minnesota here, if somebody's found incompetent on certain kinds of charges, the charges aren't just dismissed. If they're misdemeanors, they get dismissed. But if somebody's found, and what does it mean to be found incompetent? That means you don't have the wherewithal to communicate with your lawyer and to formulate a cohesive defense. It means you're unable to, defend yourself. So he's 33 years old, one count of attempted kidnapping after he tried to take an 11-year-old boy during a recess. Flippin' nightmare. And here's a picture of him supposedly on the playground with this kid. So according to the district attorney's office, they said that when a defendant is found mentally incompetent to stand trial and is being civilly committed to a mental hospital, we are legally obligated to dismiss the charges per state law. In Minnesota, they don't do that. If it's a misdemeanor, they do. But if it's a major felony case, like a murder case or attempted kidnapping case like this, they don't just dismiss him. And some of them it's after 3 years. But they have a review hearing every 6 months to see if the defendant can be restored to competency. Notwithstanding that, if somebody's civilly committed, where do they go? They're not out walking around. Certainly not this dude. He needs a makeover, too. So let's take a look. There's a little bit of a video. Every time I look at this guy's face, I just think, oh my God, there's some crime happening somewhere near him. It just looks like mental illness, doesn't it? So let's just watch this horrific video. It's not very long. So you can see in the circle, I suppose that's him. Now he's running towards them. Looks like they can run faster than he can. What the fuck, man? And what is he carrying? Jacket, probably. Now, we don't have any audio, so we don't know what's being said or if anything was being said. Seems like kind of a weak attempted kidnapping type of case anyway, doesn't it? Because he was just, or maybe he's just running after the kids to scare them. Oh, hold on, he's coming back. So that's your attempted kidnapping. I mean, it seems a little weak, you know. I mean, it's kind of spooky. I mean, it's kind of, but I mean, I just can't believe people do this shit that they do, you know. So they haven't filed their formal motion to dismiss, but the prosecutor says Galligan's guilt is not the issue for the prosecutors. The alleged crime was captured on video, which we just showed you, that showed the man chasing after and grabbing at a student as other children ran away. It's super scary to watch, blah, 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 especially seeing the perpetrator, the pictures of him. I would be freaked out if that guy touched me. Well, look at him. Oh, God. He just looks awful. He reminds me of the guy on Captain Phillips. Isn't that the one where he says, I am the captain now? You know, I mean, he sort of looks like that guy.
Look at me. Look at me. I'm the captain now.
Cool. Then you can fill out the crew evaluations, file the maintenance reports, negotiate the union contracts.
But the thing about it is, we had a case here, and I've talked about this on the channel before, Jacob Wetterling. That was a kid that went missing years, like 35 years ago or something like that. Long time ago. Oh, more than that even. And he went missing, and we found out later he was abducted by a sex offender. And the cops went by his house, and the guy shot him and then buried him on his property. And then nothing happened for years and years and years until he gets busted with child porn. And he said, and he was looking at life on the child porn. I think he was looking at life. He was looking at a lot of time, and he knew he was going to be spending this time in prison. And he says, I know where his body's buried. And this story that his lawyers, they were federal defenders at the time. Oh my God, it was just such a horrific story because it was such big news here in the community. I'll be happy to never have one of these kinds of cases for the rest of my career, you know, because it's really hard to defend somebody like that because they're entitled to a defense, but you're starting out in a hole, you know, whether it's to a jury or to a judge, you know, you are starting out in a hole when, what are you arguing about? That you didn't kidnap a kid. That's what you're accused of. Just the sheer nature of the offense itself is absolutely horrific, and it's difficult for most people to even think about. Here's the long and short of it. So it isn't easy to just get this finding of incompetency. You know, you meet with a psychologist, they do a battery of tests. You know, it's not just one test, and you can't really fake the test. They determine whether or not you can defend yourself, whether you can have the capacity to take in something that your lawyer is saying and formulate, you know, communicate with your lawyer about the defense, understanding the procedure, understanding the facts, understand the roles of the various parties. A whole host of things go into this finding of competency or not competency. God, you just look at this guy's fucking picture and your skin crawls, right? It just looks like violent mental illness. And, you know, just because you're mentally ill, it doesn't give you a pass. You can be mentally ill and still be competent. You could be mentally ill and still know right from wrong, right? And so it's not, you know, this whole business that, oh, I'll just plead insanity and act crazy. Well, that doesn't happen. You ever see Primal Fear? That shit never fucking happens. Number one, nobody is. The multiple personalities, I've never seen that. I've seen people crazy. You know, I've seen people, I had one client who thought that Al Gore was sending him signals, and he went to the bank to demand $25,000 from the bank because he was going to go to Washington and fulfill all the dreams of Al Gore and Joe Lieberman. And he demanded a $25,000 cashier's check from the banker, which he did. He gave it to him, then he called the cops because and I'm surprised he was never charged with bank robbery in that case, which I just found amazing. But he was found incompetent. I mean, he was just absolutely cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So, and then we had this Vance Bolter, who just murdered, a state legislator and his wife, tried to murder 2 others, but they weren't home, thankfully. And he's saying that, he was compelled to do this. He was asked to do this by Tim Walz or whoever. This whole issue of mental health is a real thing, and it's clogging up our system. And here's the thing. Apparently, this isn't his first go around because he was a registered sexy offender. What happens when this guy does this over and over and over again? Well, you can have a designation as not only mentally ill, but mentally ill and dangerous. You remember John Hinckley Jr.? I mean, the guy who shot Ronald Reagan? He was just let out not too long ago. He was in prison for lockup. He was found incompetent. He was in lockup for 40 years. When you are looking at a case where there's mental illness involved, it isn't a slam dunk either way. And when you have somebody like this that's super dangerous, they need to be in a locked facility with no chance of getting out. Here's the thing. If you're this repeat offender, and you can get a designation as MIND, mentally ill and dangerous. That determines what level of freedom you have. So if you're MIND, you're not getting out, and you're not getting out anytime soon. Dismissing these charges, the prosecutor can bring them back again. They're not dismissed with prejudice. So sometimes cases are dismissed with prejudice, like civil cases. So if I sue Robert, and all of a sudden I say, okay, Robert's a good guy, I'll dismiss his case with prejudice. That means you could never file it again. If I dismiss my case against Robert without prejudice, that means I'm not suing you now, but as long as I bring another one within the statute of limitations, I'm coming after you. And then the mental illness determination tolls the statute of limitations. So there's no statute of limitations issue. There's no issue with regard to his mental illness preventing the state from charging in the future if he's found competent later on. But you're not just let out. And something like this, if he's got a repeat history, he's going to be under lock and key. My point to you is if this is what your babysitter looks like, probably shouldn't go out for the evening. I'll tell you this. When Michael was growing up, I never had a babysitter for him. That wasn't family. I just don't fucking trust anybody these days. And I don't think you should either. You get precious time with your children, right? Very precious time. And, husbands and wives, they need a date night once in a while too. But honestly, get as much family time, as much quality time as you can with your kids while you have them, because their childhood is fleeting. My daughter's now 20 years old. She'll be 20 in September. Where the fuck did her childhood go? And so now I'm an empty nester, one kid in the grave and one kid off to Morocco because she's an incredible student and she's going to college and international affairs and it's just, it's fleeting. So, and who knows, maybe Chloe and I will put a couple of little, patter little feet on the floor. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen down the road. But I know that one thing, this guy's not going to babysit my fucking kids. Fuck! I don't like abuse cases when they come to children. These guys are difficult to deal with. And I've had them in the past. I don't have any now, thank God. They're difficult to deal with. Nothing is ever their fault. Everything is difficult. They don't understand right from wrong in terms of their boundaries with you as a lawyer. And the long story short of it is, there's a yuck factor to it that you just are sitting next to somebody that, and the jurors think this too. You sit down, what would you think as a juror when you see this fucking face when you walk in the courtroom? I remember doing a closing argument, the juror, and I'm walking up and down in front of the jury, and this woman was looking at me like, Like, get the fuck away from me. And I'm like, okay. You know you're in a hole when you get that kind of reaction from a juror. And my guy was acquitted of one and convicted of another. But anyway, I'm kind of rambling here a little bit. But, take good care of your children. It sucks that, as they get older, you got to let them go. And we can't control their environment. I mean, tell me what a parent did wrong here. Nothing, right? And if this guy would have been successful, how fucking horrible would that be? That would just be absolutely horrible. You put the white wine aside for a second, give your child a hug, and maybe you guys read a book. I had a book of poems that I used to read to my kids. I eat peas with honey. I've done it all my life. They do taste kind of funny, but it keeps them on my knife. And I just I still have that book to this day. It's a book of children's poems. And there's an innocence and a wonderment that children have that these motherfuckers take away. So that's my little speech today about child abuse, abductors, and dickheads like this guy. Just because he has a mental illness doesn't give him a pass. Hopefully he's off the street for as long as he's breathing the same air that I breathe. He's a waste of space as far as I can see. Anyway, but that's me. We'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. We have all kinds of merch for you, babies. We have hoodies. We're going to drop the price of the hoodies a little bit because we got a shit ton of hoodies. So they're black and they're white, and they got me on it. They got me pointing. Stop self-snitching. We have T-shirts are going like crazy because it's summer. We'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hold the one you love very closely. Whether it's a child, whether it's your sweetheart, like my sweetheart. Don't hold my sweetheart. That's for me. And make sure you subscribe. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. Sign up for Patreon because we got some merch coming for you if you're a paid member. Not if you just are one of the hangers-on. See you next time on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, your board-certified criminal defense lawyer. I'm just here for you. I am the most selfless criminal defense... Not really. I'm just here for you. Okay. Today we're reacting to the TikTok killer. And before we get to that, we're going to do some questions from fans or audience, whatever you want to call them. Okay, so we're going to take some questions from our fans, and let's just go with the first one. On Brian Koberger, could he have made an Alfred plea? Probably not, because when you have person crimes, very difficult for a victim and their family to accept that he won't take ownership of that. So let's see the next one. All right, this is from Foley 15136. If you were an Idaho attorney and Koberger tried to hire you back at the beginning, would you take his case, Bruce? Well, of course I would. I mean, my soul is for rent, not for sale, but it's for rent. Why wouldn't you? It's a defense lawyer's dream, right? But this came out exactly how I thought it would. They tried to do alternative perpetrator, but they just didn't have anything to hang their hat on. If you use, alternative perpetrator as your theory of the case, it is up to the defense to provide evidence of that. It's their burden to prove up that affirmative defense, and they just couldn't do it. So this is Babs 5066. Bruce, I saw a video that this man who is an expert on law saying that the judge can overturn the verdict what the jury says not guilty charges. Is that true that this can happen? Let's see. I think what your question is, can a judge overturn a not guilty? No. 100% no. The judge cannot overturn a verdict like that. However, a judge can issue a finding of judgment of acquittal. And there's two things about it. If he does it before the jury gets the case, it's not appealable. If he does it after the jury gives their verdict, let's say the jury says guilty, and the judge says, I just don't see it, it's not guilty. That is appealable by the government. Thanks, Babs, for your question. So this is from Rad Rob OG. Okay, Bruce, how many subscribers do you need to hit so we can get a Bruce Rivers CLR Grandma reveal? 2 million. Once we hit 2 million, we'll do a live in my basement with my grandma, and you'll see her amazing feat. Bruce, can you explain why in this situation Raja still has not been detained or arrested? Is it because Psycho Stu hasn't pressed charges or what? No, I don't know why he hasn't been arrested. And maybe it's because they're trying to figure out what the long-term damages with Psycho Stu are. I'm not sure. This is definitely a case that is going to be brought or should be brought. Where was it? Was it in Vegas? Yeah, it was out. Because it's California. That's why. They don't do shit. And even if they do, they may not bring it. I don't know. But if it was here, he'd be in jail right now. This is from Michael YF120 or YF1WO. Bruce, as a thought exercise, I'm into thought exercises. So thanks, Michael. As a thought exercise, as a lawyer, would you consider representing Raja? And how might you structure your defense strategy? Sounds like Rampage got legal advice and is playing the concussion card, suggesting that Raja was duped into getting involved, assaulted, and because of his existing injury maybe being aggravated, Raja was not in control of his faculties and was instigated into violence, maybe temporary insanity from pre-existing injury and aggravating circumstances. If I were on a jury, I could see this as a reasonable defense. Are you from California? If you are, yes, you have just won the lottery. Of course, that's kind of the only defense that he's got, some diminished capacity based on CTE or, his concussion or whatever. And then you take all the other things that were going on around it. The encouraging. I mean, how is that person not charged? Go get your receipt. Remember they said that? Go get your receipt. We'll do a couple more of these, and let's see. Can you react to My Cousin Vinny movie scenes? Oh, I fucking love this one. If we can get the copyright release, I think we should do that. Maybe we do a reaction where I watch, a bunch of the scenes, and I think that would be fine. Do you want me to be honest with you about that movie? That movie is probably the most realistic lawyer film out there. He's out there busting his hump and not knowing what to do and learning as he goes. And he actually does some work and he wins the case by actually diving into the testimony of these witnesses. Wait a second. You saw through all those dirty screens and them bushes there. Don't forget this one or this one. The thing with Marissa Tomei cute and everything, probably not too realistic on that note. However, posi traction on the car, that is a realistic find that their expert didn't even see, and that those are one or two little facts like that can always win a case. So last one here, Scotty TY, ask a lawyer, why do you bury lawyers 10 feet deep instead of 6? Because deep down they're really good people. Thanks, Scotty. See, our skin's really thick. I can take it. All right, let's go into Emily Long. Before we get to that, this is brought to you by, like it always is, AskLawyer.com. AskLawyer.com is a very effective way for you to get the advice of a competent legal analysis from a living, breathing, yes, we do have hearts. I know it's a common misperception that lawyers don't have hearts, but a live lawyer, if you have a dispute with your landlord, if you have a case you want to bring, you're not sure, go to AskALawyer.com for $49. You've got a living, breathing lawyer, and it's at your disposal whenever you need it. If you're doing your own legal research, like Grandma in the basement, she was able to set up her LLC for her OnlyFans foot page. Some people are into geriatric feet. So she did that by going to the AI section that's trained in all the 50 states, and she found the best state to incorporate in. And now she's making a ton of money from some really sick people. So go to AskALawyer.com. Same people who brought you eSign and eForms. Really solid supporter of the channel. I highly recommend them. AskALawyer.com.
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And he's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Emily Long was a TikToker, and she did a murder-suicide. We just had a situation here in Minnesota at Annunciation Church, which was just up the block from my house. I went to go film one day, and I couldn't get out my driveway because cops were blocking my driveway, like all of them. And there was over 100 cops in my street and 20 ambulances or whatever it was. It was insane. That's when that shooter shot up Annunciation Church. Thank God those people had the doors locked and he couldn't get in. Otherwise, the carnage would have been so much worse. Why don't these fuckers just kill themselves first? If you want to die, die. No one gives a shit. No one gives a one last little motherfucking shit that you are dead. In fact, they're glad you're dead. You know, Robin, or whatever the fuck your name is, this Emily. Why do you have to leave carnage in your wake? You know, have some humanity. You have to be a pussy and shoot through a window at a bunch of fucking children? Give me a break. I am all for gun control. You know, I know I'm going to get a lot of BS on that, but we shouldn't be able to have 30 round mags. And maybe, how about a drum? How about 100 rounds? I mean, he could have killed everybody in that place had those doors not been locked. It wasn't a good guy that stopped him. What stopped him was the locked doors. Could have been a lot worse. It was he stopped himself and shot himself. You know, and the thing that kills me about that whole thing, I saw two things that morning that just absolutely had me in tears. I saw parents running like madmen and women up the street. I saw this woman running in her dress and she wasn't stopping. She wasn't stopping after a block. She just was running up to her children. And then I saw a father walking in front of my house. He was parked in front of my house. He had his two daughters in school uniforms, holding their hands and walking away from that tragedy. And the look on those girls' faces, the look on their faces was just horrible. And what did he say? What did this Robin fuck say? He said, fuck the children, fuck you.
Fuck you!
This kind of stuff, this murder-suicide. You know, I get, desperation. I get being pissed off. When my ex-wife took Michael from my home, don't think that I wasn't in absolute despair. Get help for it or move the fuck on in a positive way. So recently, Emily Long, 34, fatally shot her husband, Ryan Long. How nice is that? Remember when Phil Hartman was shot by his wife and then she shot herself? She was from Minnesota. So, but sweet Emily, age 34, fatally shot her husband, Ryan Long, 48 years old. And their two eldest children, Parker and Ryan, ages 8 and 6. Well, why wouldn't you? I mean, fucking A, they wouldn't clean their room, for God's sake. In their Madbury, New Hampshire home before she took her own life. Take it first. I'm going to talk to you right now. If you are thinking about a murder-suicide kind of thing, just do the suicide part. You don't need to fuck everybody else's life up, okay? Robin, if you're listening up there in the depth of hell, all you did was unite a community. That's all you fucking did. So if you want to fuck the children over, all you did was make everybody closer to the children. The youngest child, age 3, survived, physically uninjured, and is now an orphan and doesn't have siblings. In a murder-suicide like this, what legal procedures still take place even though the suspect is deceased? Well, when you have a situation like this, they still do a full investigation. They want to know why this happened. You have the custody of this young child, a 3-year-old, to be determined. With family, they have to get some legal rights. You have the estate to figure out. So let's watch this news clip. This is just fucking awful.
I think the impact for the community it's just trauma. It's absolute trauma.
Tonight, some answers released by the New Hampshire Attorney General's office about what happened at this Madbury home Monday before the bodies of 2 adults and 2 children were found.
That is 3 separate homicides and 1 suicide.
Investigators say 34-year-old Emily Long shot and killed her husband, 48-year-old Ryan Long, and their 2 children, 8-year-old Parker and 6-year-old Ryan, before shooting and killing herself. They say she used a handgun already in their house.
We are having gunfire and that this event occurs in a short time period right at 5:30 in the morning. And you're correct, it's not until 8:20 that there are individuals who are over to try to make contact with people and end up calling 911. That time in between are things that we're still working on.
And right now, officials aren't sure why Emily Long killed her family members or herself.
Some that involved the idea of what was going on with the money situation, another one with the health situation. I think the big thing is to try not to speculate that there's any one reason like something like this would happen. Homicide and suicide.
Let me just tell you something. There is no good reason. There is no good reason. There's no good reason for suicide. Michael's mother, suicide. She blew herself away with a .357 Magnum in the mouth. Thank God Michael wasn't with her. I mean, he was with me at the time.
Suicide is usually much, much more complex than just one reason.
But they say they're still trying to figure this out.
If somebody does see an indicator of anyone in crisis, there's so many different ways. Dialing 988 in New Hampshire will immediately get people to assistance that they might need.
You know, the thing about it is you can have all the signs in the world. If they don't want help, they're not going to get help. You know, they do, whenever you have a death at the hands of another, which is a homicide, you know, there's an autopsy on every single one of these. So Ryan Long died from multiple gunshot wounds, while each child died from a single gunshot wound. Oh, how nice. It ruled homicides because it's death hands of another. Emily's death was ruled a suicide by a single gunshot wound to the head. So, I mean, it's just tragedy, You know, I mean, look at her. Look at him. You could have done better. You could have done better. You really could have. You could have married somebody that wasn't a fucking homicide, suicide maniac. So some questions to ask are, when investigators release findings like these, what role does the autopsy play in shaping the official case record? And how do prosecutors decide what details is shared publicly at this stage? The public has a right to know. And, you know, it's kind of up to the family, I think, to release details or not. But there's no criminal prosecution, is there? There shouldn't be. Would there be with Robin, who shot up the Annunciation School? Well, a good buddy of mine represents the mother, and who knows what's going to happen there. Was she somehow complicit in buying his weapons or what? Hopefully not. But Emily's mental state and social media. In the weeks leading up to the event, Emily posted frequently, and she had candid TikToks videos sharing her emotional struggles, grief over her husband's aggressive brain cancer, glioblastoma, and her anxiety, depression, and fears about finances and parenting alone. You know, that you see this with women sometimes. That Yates chick in Texas who drowned her, I think it was Texas, who drowned her 3 children in a fucking car. How could you do that? I can't hurt a fly. You know, I just don't understand this deal, you know. If someone documents depression or anxiety publicly, how might that information be used in a criminal investigation or later in court? Well, one of the things it should trigger is a red flag law, so you can't buy a gun, but evidently they had a gun in the house. In what ways do mental health struggles factor into sentencing or prosecutorial decisions? Prosecutors don't give a shit about mental health. Oh, you're sad? And that's why you did this? Boo motherfucking who? You know, they don't care. But judges do. And when you are depressed, especially like postpartum depression can be a really powerful thing. Women take their lives all the time based on depression. People take their lives because of depression. It's when you feel the world closing in on you. It's when you feel like there's no hope, there's no tomorrow, there's no avenue for you to have a happiness, and you can't see the forest for the trees, and you're in that depression. Get some help. Absolutely get some help. You know, like that Attorney General said, dialing 988. I mean, mental health is a big part of the legal system. Just 1 week before the tragedy, Emily was accused of embezzling $600,000 from Wings It restaurant, where she was the director of operations. Well, there you go. There you go. You want your reason? You know, I had somebody who was very well off. Her mother's worth millions, and she had a good job and stole over $1 million from her company. And it was over about a 6 or 7 year period. She just was she was depressed, and she wound up getting charged federally with it. That happens. It just does. Let's just take a look at this. You know, and when you commit crimes, when you're in this funk, you're isolated. And when the more isolated you are, the more you feel you don't have anything to live for.
Okay, I put makeup on and real clothes for the first time. Basically, makeup since we went to the Cape in July, and real clothes in God only knows how long. So I'm trying to get myself out of this rut. I know that I've said this before, but our kids are definitely struggling. And now I'm starting to notice some changes in our 3-year-old, which is tough because he's too young for therapy. I know that people are going to say play therapy. We've done that before, and I just don't really see the benefit in it. And he's too young for talk therapy, obviously.
What is your 3-year-old going through? Guess what children are? A reflection of us. So if you're being a dick to your children, they're going to be dicks to other people. If you're being depressed, your children are, they're just mirror images of us. I've always had the thought that I don't want my kids to see me sweat because, I have trouble at work. Well, I have, stressors, a big trial or this or that. They need to know that they're always covered, that they're always safe, that they're always going to they can rely on dad no matter what.
But like, for example, last night, he just couldn't sleep. He was up all night long. He was crying. He's never like that. And I've been starting to notice him stirring more at night and just have a harder time. And it's just devastating. But I am determined to create normalcy. We're going to go down the street to our neighbors who are our close friends with a bunch of our other friends. I don't think that my husband will come. Maybe he will, because it's right down the street. It's just a couple houses down. But it's important for my kids to be with their friends. And I have been struggling so much and really depressed and just have really become reclusive and just wanted to be with my kids and my husband. And while that might feel good for me, I don't think that that's good for me. So that being said, I am making a change. It is starting today. I am going to start getting dressed. I am going to probably not put makeup on because I don't really wear makeup very often unless I'm going somewhere, but I need to become more social again. I used to be like the most social human on this planet. And the past month, I have basically declined 98% of all offers, and my kids need to be with their friends. So hold me to it. Today, I am adjusting my perspective, and I'm making a point to get out of my depression.
Seems positive, doesn't it? Seems like a positive development.
And do this for my family. So, that being said, happy Saturday. I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. I'm going to have a fantastic day.
Which brings, this embezzlement thing, and her isolation. I've had clients, and it seems like it's a lot of female clients when they, like I had one gal, she embezzled over the course of about 8 years, $1.5 million. And she didn't keep any of the money for herself. She was trying to be a big shot among her family. Oh, you want to go on a trip? Here's some money to go on a trip. Oh, you need a new car? Here's a new car. And she was this magnanimous person, right? This fed her desire to be loved by everybody. And guess what? It caught up with her. She got federally indicted for this embezzlement.
And we have breaking news at 11. New accusations against the woman investigators say killed her husband, Ryan, her son, Parker, and her daughter, also named Ryan, before killing herself. Emily Long's boss says money she had access to had been disappearing for more than a year, more than $660,000.
Companies don't see their books all the time. I'm a member of a country club. Probably the cheapest one in town, called Town and Country. And we had a bookkeeper who was siphoning money off over years. And we never did audits, because it was 10 grand and we were saving 10 grand, right? Well, $2.3 million later, when they were about to do an expansion project, it turns out she was the one stealing all the money. And then our GM was actually taking all the cash. You can't trust fucking anybody.
You're watching News 9 at 11. I'm Marissa Tansino.
And I'm Steve Botari. Derek Fisher owns a chain of restaurants here in the Granite State. He says that money started disappearing before Emily Long's husband was even diagnosed with cancer, and Fisher eventually went to the police. WMUR's Amani Fleming has been following this for us. Amani?
Well, Steve, Derek Fisher says he felt like he really had no other option than to go to law enforcement about this. And he says he's heartbroken and that he's devastated over the deaths of Emily Long and her family. Now, according to an official Hampton police complaint filed by Derek Fisher on August 11th, he was suspicious that Emily Long, his director of operations, was stealing money from his business. He says they've been working together since 2018. June 18th is when Fisher says he and his bookkeeper started looking into a large quantity of checks that were being written to Emily personally. Derek says he...
How stupid. There's ways you can siphon money off that are a little less traceable than writing yourself a personal fucking check.
Derek says he questioned her about those checks, but she didn't really have an answer for him. He says he asked for 3 months of her bank statements, and he didn't get those until August 5th. Derek says the bank told him that those statements had been manipulated, that there were pages missing.
Let me tell you something about that. I had a client who was the bookkeeper for a church, and he siphoned off like about $300,000, which is not that much in the broad scheme of things, right? They were trying to, okay, we need the bank statement. So he was making fake bank statements to give to the church, and they ultimately gave to investigators that they knew were fake. And so he made them on his computer. Well, guess what that did? If he would have just copped to the theft, he probably would have gotten probation. But that gave the cops a search warrant to look at his computer. Oh, and guess what he had on his computer? A bunch of child pornography. Okay, you would have done 2 or 3 years, if that, but now you're going to get 15 to 20 years for all this fucking child pornography. Dumb shit, game over.
He says at one point, out of the blue, Emily told him she could resign or Derek could fire her. And he says more than anything, he was left feeling confused.
There's really no answer. As far as I know, I don't have any answers. I don't know where the money went. I don't know what she, needed it for, what she spent it on. But I do know that something was wrong. She did do what we're, suspecting her of doing, because she's the only one that had access to any of this money. I don't want to make this about me, because it's not about me. It's about this little boy that has no family anymore. And that is the story right here.
So Fisher says at this moment,
when you have a narcissist, which is what she is, she didn't give a shit about anybody but herself. She knew she was going to get fucked. She knew there probably wouldn't be anybody to raise their children except for her family. She couldn't take that humiliation. And then why are you depressed? Because you stole, and that's a secret that you're keeping that's eating at you constantly. Why aren't you the strong pillar for your children and your husband, who supposedly is dying of brain cancer? I mean, why aren't you that strong person? Because you're weak and you don't give a shit about anybody but yourself. Ugh, that drives me fucking mad. Just mad. New Hampshire Authority, Attorney General's office, and local authorities reiterated that this case is likely stemmed from multiple overlapping stressors, urging the public not to jump to conclusions or simplify the motive to just one factor. Well, of course it's not. Most theft cases start, I'm just going to take a little bit and I'll put it back. So they take a little bit and then they just need a little bit. And that was easy to do, that little bit, And guess what? If she just did a little bit, nobody would ever fucking know. But $600,000 over a year is a lot for a small business. And all of a sudden you just a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And it's all these little bits that turn out to be a lot. And you get into a desperate situation where there's no way out and you're going to go to prison. I mean, stealing $600,000, you're not going to just get a slap on the wrist. You don't get a diversion program for $600,000. You don't just get, we're sorry, be on your way. I'm sure you needed it more than we did. Fuck that. And then you decide what? What do you decide to do? You decide to murder your husband and 2 of your 3 fucking children? Emily. That was not a good move. So the aftermath of this stuff, there's a vigil. There's, it was held in their local community and the schools. You got friends of these kids who are mourning the loss of their child, of their classmate. Just fucking stupid. I just hate stuff like this. When Michael's mom died, all the people in his first grade class did a card for him, and then what does that make him? What does that make him? The kid whose mom died, right? He's that kid over here. Everybody else is over here, but he's the one without a mother. Who is this 3-year-old? I know who that kid is. That's the kid whose mom killed his dad and his two siblings. Oh, yeah, you remember that? Oh, don't go around him because he's probably going to do the same to you. Whatever. The kid's fucked up for life. It's funny that this reaction comes on the heels of this Annunciation shooting. You know, if you're feeling like you need to, like if you have depression and you have no hope, go see somebody. Get some medication. We have medication for that. Maybe it makes you dull. You know, maybe it flattens you out. But guess what? It keeps those valleys from happening. Now, I'm not on any medication, and I can't tell you what Michael's death did to me. I mean, I still, every day, I mean, like behind the camera, I have to look at fucking Nick and Robert. I mean, they're not pretty guys. I'm joking, of course. But, you know, I try to get through life with humor, you know, and that's, you know, I try to find a joke everywhere I go, honestly. I don't always succeed, but you know what? Lift yourself up the best you can. And if you can't, get some professional help. There is help out there for everybody. Whether you need to be on medication or whether you just need somebody to talk to, reach out. Do not isolate. Isolating is the absolute worst thing you can do. I'm not a mental health professional. I want to preface, but I am somebody who has suffered some setbacks over the years. With Michael's mom's death and Michael's death, I mean, have I thought about taking my life? Sure I have. But I would never do that to my child, you know, Jackie, my daughter. You know, I mean, I would never do that. And I wouldn't do that in general. I just, you know, do you have down days? Yeah, you have down days where you're just sad. But guess what? I find an outlet, you know, whether it's working out or riding my motorcycle or just realizing that I'm so much better than Nick and Bob. Robert, rather. I'm joking, of course. See? They're laughing behind the scenes right now. You gotta find joy in this world. I'm so grateful for my Clodagh because she has just made me so happy, and you know, life with her is just what I need, you know. And you gotta find that with your parents, with your sibling, with your spouse, with your friends, coworkers. Find somebody that, I mean, we can't, you know what COVID did to me? COVID really taught me how much we really need each other. And we really do. So don't isolate. That's just my final thought for today. You know, and I'm glad I reacted to some of the comments that people have made because, you know, I really appreciate everybody that tunes into our channel. You know, life is so precious and we can lose it so fucking fast, as last week taught us, right? We can lose it so fast. And this thing tells us, you know, children are here. You know, children are our future. I mean, but more than that, they rely on us. They're vulnerable. If you're suffering from something and you've got a child, you owe a special duty to that child and to yourself to get some help. With that said, make sure you subscribe. Doesn't that sound kind of almost insincere? But do subscribe because we've got some good messages here. Go to clrbrucerivers.com and make sure we take Nick out of his homelessness. The other Nick. We have two Nicks here. The one that looks homeless. And make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon, and make sure that you love the one you're with as much as possible. But more than that, love yourself so you can be a better person tomorrow and you're an asset to those around you. See you next time on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.